Good day. This is a presentation of the Learning Output 1 about the ethical issues of the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki during the World War II. The group members are Bolima, Chua, Ko, Isidro, Medina, Nazareno, and Wong. On August 6 and 9 of the year 1945, the United States of America dropped two nuclear bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This event was considered as one of the most gruesome catastrophes in war history, with an estimate of 110,000 to 200,000 persons killed, which most of whom were civilians. A human-made weapon of mass destruction with the intent of causing mass casualties and jeopardizing the natural environment is a threat to society and future generations.
What kind of ethical orientation or perspective might justify this decision, and why? The idea of consequentialism can also be utilized to justify this decision. Consequentialism states that an action is morally good if it leads to good and desirable consequences. If it is morally bad, then it leads to bad and undesirable consequences. Just like for the case of the United States, they ended World War II by dropping the atomic bomb in Japan. This not only stops the war, but it also helped mitigate the number of total casualties if the war still continued. Though this action killed a lot of people in the process, more would have died if the war wasn't put to a stop. As a result, more lives were preserved, which is why it is considered as the better action.
Should the pilot of the bomber plane feel any guilt? The case of the bomber pilot having any guilt stems from the rational theory, wherein the decision of dropping the bomb relates to legal accountability and the guilt after to moral accountability. In relation to legal accountability, if he did not drop the bombs, he would face imprisonment, fines, and revocation of his license as a pilot and as a soldier. In relation to moral accountability, there has been criteria established for a person to be morally accountable for an action. All conditions should be present. He or she causes the action, dropping the bomb, knows the morality of the action, many people will die, and is free to perform the action. He has been instructed to do so, and the Japanese are unaware of this attack.
He is therefore morally accountable. For a person to be excused from moral accountability for an action, at least one condition should be present. Either he does not cause the action, no, for he did the action, is ignorant of the morality of the action, no, he is well informed of what he is about to do, or is not free to perform the action. Yes, he is bound by the law and may face insubordination if he will not follow, allowing room for fines and penalties. He is therefore excused from the action and should not feel guilt.
Should the Allied soldiers who are not part of the decision making nor the operation feel any guilt? Using responsibility as a feature, pilots and soldiers would then be considered heroes and fulfill their legal accountability as soldiers to their country. However, for the soldiers who are not part of the decision making nor the operation about the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki may be excused from moral accountability of their action, simply because they did not cause the event as well as they have no knowledge about the next motive of the upper ranking officials.
Allied soldiers who were not part of the decision-making should not feel guilty about the bombing as they neither had the power nor the presence to prevent the bombing from happening. Also, considering the fact that the Manhattan Project was kept a secret from the common populace, it would be safe to say that most of all the Allied soldiers had no prior knowledge to the plans until the decision to carry it out was made.
It has been reported that bombing Japan was not meant to end the war, but to prevent the Russian forces from to occupy Japan. The war was already won before the bombing. For the USA, the Russians are the next potential threat to American welfare and must be prevented from holding territories of Japan. How does this claim affect your judgment and about the morality of the bombing? It had been reported that the war was won before the bombing. However, while the war may have been mostly won outside the Japanese islands, it should be considered that the war would not end until Japanese themselves have been subdued via a land invasion or forced into submission. The decision to drop the atomic bombs was influenced by the belief that a land invasion of the Japanese home islands would have brought more casualties and losses due to the indoctrination of the people to fight to the end. One could say that if the bombing of Japan was made as a preemptive move against the Russian development, they can say that the value of human lives was not considered by US officials, thereby making them act logically and inhumanely. Given that this fact is true, one could argue that the dropping of the bomb was immoral.
That would be all. Thank you for listening.